Bo. Well, Pash Be'er, I'm sorry, we do Be'er for. We always go backwards. For this Monday night Shmuez, we still. Morris says that till Tuesday, still to make Havdalah, still shot the last week. So that's always the Shmuez on the Ben Al-Khamez on the Pash before. Pash Be'er, we have tremendous Yisod, which is the Ma'aseh Yisod, that Be'emes has been a concept throughout the parashas, but I want to do a few chidushim that came up this year. We know that the Moshe and Aaron were asked to do the makis in front of Bnei Yisroel, but also in front of Paro. Ki darba alechem Paro lev tzulech moifes. V'amartel Aaron kachas matach v'ashlech v'nei Paro yidasani. Should tell Aaron to take the mata v'ashel v'nei Paro yidasani. So always had the shayla hara. Why was Aaron the one? Why do you have to do Aaron to take the mat? Like it could be just that I want to show that Moshe and Aaron are both involved with people. But the guy, the meaning of the mat of throwing in front of Paro to be a sanin, to be a snake, right? So why was it Hadafka Moshe had to tell Aaron to do it? The Baruch tell Aaron to do it. Why couldn't Moshe do that? Now we know that's the first question. Again, why by the ois? The sign of the snake, which eventually went on that he swallowed the other snakes. Why was it that Hashem didn't tell Moshe to do it, thought Aaron should do it? Tzorach Ying says. Secondly, we find a very interesting concept, which we'll see, which is related to this issue, that by the first couple of makis, Hashem told Moshe to tell Aaron. For instance, by the case of the dam, the first mak is dam, right? Everybody knows dam, tzvardeya. Anyway, the kids are, but everybody knows the Esser Makah, so the first one's Dam. Dam, so it says, well, Hashem told Moshe, that you didn't tell Moshe to do it, tell Aaron to strike the Nile, and turn to Dam. And say, what's Vadeya? So why, and more Aaron? Why Aaron? Says Rashi, per example, of your test, V'shehegen ha'ya'or al Moshe, כשנשלח לתויכוי, לפיקו ללוקה על יודה, לא בדם ולא בצוורדיה. Dam and Tzvardeya, he wasn't going to do, because he was protected by the Nile, by the river, when his mother put him into the river, in the basket, in Pasha Shmuez, so he was saved through the river, so it's not right that he should hit the river. So says Rashi, therefore Aaron had to do it. And then also by Kinim, the same thing. The Ma'aseh, it's very interesting. So we know the famous word, people talk about it, that Rav Belsky has a word over here, a very famous kashi. Yes, I don't understand. Why couldn't Moshe hit it? Because Moshe was protected by these things. So but at the end of the day, so don't hit the river. The river's going to feel the pain. The river's going to have a mark on it now of dam, and it's going to start to cry. You get all sad. It's a river. What's the problem with the river? You're going to hit the earth, and the mom is breaking. It'll have a nervous breakdown. The earth, so the mom must be shattering, experience, traumatized. The earth's going to have to go to a psychologist. Gonna have to send him to a psychologist. The earth's gonna have to do afterwards, gonna hit it, and it's gonna cause Keenum to come out from the earth, and the earth's gonna be so insulted because you, Moshe, was saved by the mitzvah to earth. How could you do such a thing? And therefore don't hit the earth. Earth is an animate object, it has no feelings. What's going on over here? More Esrav Desla. At the end of the day, what came out of this Makkah? The Kiddush Hashem and Noir V'Oyim, which would ask the earth, how you doing today? They might lock you up. But if you ask the earth will tell you, of course do it. I'm only here in this world to bring Kavod to Hashem. This is the greatest Kiddush Hashem in the world. So if you ask the earth, you should hit it. Hit me. Hit me twice. Bang me. I don't care what you do to me. I'm bringing out Kavod Shemayim. The Tzvadei has jumped into the fire. Why Kiddush Hashem? So the earth shouldn't. It's the greatest mile for the earth to be hit. Moshe, you don't do it. The earth might feel insulted. You insulted me, Moses. How dare you hit me? I saved you. What's going on here? So if Dessus is a famous word, it's not off the feelings of the earth. It's oust the person himself. And a person has to understand, and people make a mistake, they say, we have to, if you want to analyze the person, it's in the subject of Kursa, but it's a much bigger zach. It's a much heavier zach. And that's why it could be, it's much more, it's not just a Kursa Toiv, it's much greater than a Kursa Toiv. We'll see in a minute. And that's why it could be, I'm adding this connection, could be, I didn't see if that's the wall, if he says it before, but it could be over here. The reason why you have to be much extra sensitive to it, because it's much worse than Stam a Kursa Toiv. A Kursa Toiv is you have to say thank you. Someone did you a favor. Here, the Gemara says in Baba Kama 92a, Bor sheshasa boy, a boy you drank from, al tishlach boy evan. Don't throw a stone into a boy you drank. The boy doesn't feel it. There's mishalim raw tachas toiv. It's much greater hisara. It's the antithesis of hakaras hatoiv. Hakaras hatoiv is to recognize any good someone did for you. Mishalim raw tachas toiv means that if someone did for you and you pay him back with bad, that's the antithesis. Not only did you recognize the good, you went ahead and you did something bad to them. So it could be because this is what I'm adding, it could be by this madrega was so the antithesis of Kursa Toiv. That's why we have to go to the extra darga, the extra mile to stay so far away that beside Moshe he shouldn't feel. And that's what Taka the Gemara says. Bor sheshasa boy. But the boy you drank from a well, don't throw a stone. The well is also inanimate. The teretz is you're going to learn the Mishayim Ra Tachas Toiva. The Shita over there brings the mice with the bathhouse that the Rif once was Nana, and the Rif was Nana for the bathhouse, and the Rif didn't want to have didn't want to pass. They have to understand what the case was, why but he didn't want to pass over the bears. He said, I was Nana from this bathhouse, but this tub, whatever it was, I'm not going to pass in whatever it should do. Maybe it'll be bad, whatever. The sensitivity of Mishalim Ra Tachas Toiva, which is the antithesis of Kursa Toiva. It's not just a Kursa. I want to say Gevaldig, Rabbi. I want to say Gevaldig. I want to say that what's epis over here, the Torah brings it out. Why Kadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu? So I saw a word on Shabbos in the brisk. It says, who Moshe v'Aaron? He's Moshe v'Aaron. That they remain, who Moshe v'Aaron? We only know who b'tzidkasa, the Gemara in Megillah. Who b'tzidkasa, mitzichloso v'yatzoifa. You're 10a, or 11a, I'm sorry. 10 or 11a, who b'tzidkasa, 11a, who b'tzidkasa, mitzichloso v'yatzoifa. Whenever it says who, we say by Yosef, who Yosef? He was in Mitzrayim, he was Roya, he's Tzidkasa. Who Moshe v'Aaron, they were made the Tzidkas, what was the Messiah? They were always, so they sort of, the briskers want to tie the brisk, they want to tie that who Moshe v'Aaron, and even though they got chance with Paro, that interaction with Paro HaRasha, still they remained clean. Because even when you interact with the Russia, even to give the Russia Malchus, even to do something to the Russia, you still can get the active interaction with the Russia. Dealing with the Russia and following the Russia, you can be influenced. And therefore, Moshe v'Aaron, they weren't influenced. I want to say Gevaldik. And that's why Moshe could be over here. I'm saying, I don't know, this is my own shtickle. That Moshe v'Aaron had to go to the nth degree to not be shaykh to the whole inyan of Mishayim Rochas Tachas Toiva. And they had to be mamish sensitive even to the earth and animate objects, because Paroi was the antithesis of this madrega. Paroi was the Metzias, He was the Metzias of this madrega. Paroi was the biggest Mishalim Ra Talas Toiva. Because Paroi, the The Gemara Chazal say Paro was the koifer in Toivosu Shachaveiroi. He went ahead and took the Jewish people, Klal Yisrael, who had given him so much toiva. Yosef, he would have been Melech Mitzrayim without Yosef. He would have had nothing without the Yidden. They helped, but the Yidden came down. They built up this power into an empire. And then he went and took these same people and he made them mamish. By Paro, it was the highest level of Shalom Lord Toiva. And if Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to get influenced, and that was who Moshe Rabbeinu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, here you have to go to the nth degree to be Mishalem Toiv, not to Mishalem Lord, even by inanimate objects. It's beautiful. The fee says it's beautiful. By that over here, by this thing that Moshe Rabbeinu shouldn't. The fee said I once wanted to say it could be that's why Moshe couldn't throw the stick and turn into a snake. Moshe Rabbeinu grew up in that palace. So Hagam, you're right, all the markets came in, but directly they come into the palace when Moshe Rabbeinu paid Gaga there. And he paid, what's it called? Chamesh Avanim. He was brought up in that palace to come in and put a snake in the palace. You want to play snake in the bathroom? Okay, you play just, snake. What's that game? Snake. But to bring a snake into the palace, for you, Moshe Rabbeinu, it's a shtickle nugam shalom rotach. You grew up in the palace. No, I never saw anybody say it. But why does he tell Aaron to put the snake? He says beautiful. Aaron didn't grow up in the palace. Moshe grew up there. Moshe Rabbeinu had to be so nizer in the Mishalim Rotach Toiva. And this is something, Rabbi said, that we have to work on very stark. This is something that people have to get into their noodles. They have to get into their noodles while they're eating their noodles for supper with their wives. Mishalim Rotach Toiva. We're not talking about a curse tov. A curse tov shmuz. It's much, much deeper. It's much, much worse. That people do things for you, and when you're expected to pay back to be there, you're going to be shouting raw. I'm not going to. Why should I do it? I talk about this, Rabbi said, it's a personal end. It's not just our yeshiva, every yeshiva. This is a very, very common thing, Rabbi said. And I think people have to think about it. I think if you're working on madregas or on midas, Rabbi said, and it's no gay, as we'll say in a minute, after community marriage. A person's a part of the yeshiva. And let's say he enjoys the yeshiva, he enjoys the Carlsbergs and all the beautiful stuff we bring in. And he enjoys the meat, the food. Baruch Hashem, we have a beautiful cook who's so dedicated and so master. And he enjoys all the things. But Thursday night, the yeshiva decides to make something. Let's say. So the guy, there's two types of guys. He says, oh, you know what? I'm not interested in the kumzitz for me. I'm not interested in this thing for the yeshiva's doing. That's Mishalim Ra Tachas Toiva, Shem Yerachim, the worst madrega. The first we speak about this madrega being the worst madrega shaykh. Mishalim Ra Tachas Toiva. It becomes Toiva Ikid. Why? So the guy says, what do you mean, Rabbi? Rabbi? What do you mean? I'm not interested in this thing. It's not for me. It's not for me to do this. For me to do that for the yeshiva. But you're getting toiva from the yeshiva, and you're making the yeshiva. You're being megareya. You're making the yeshiva weak. You're mechalash the yeshiva. Why? For you, it's not good. So what does that say? You don't realize the toiva that's happening. Not only you don't realize, you're in the face of the thing that's doing the toiva. You're mishalim roy. You're weaker. You could be here. The guy comes in. He takes food from the kumsitz and he goes out. Explain it to me. It doesn't make sense. A guy comes in, but he has a no. But the Bein, you expect to mechazik the place. That's part of you. You're part of your yeshiva institution. It's not only here for the three from last week, the Trinity, me, myself, and I. You're part of an institution. You're part of an oila. You're expected to mechazik. Rav Shlomo used to say that to come to the me yeshiva in Poland, to come learn in the morning on time and everything was not only been on the mokum, it's been on the chaver because it was so cold and the more people were there, it warmed up. But I say in every base measure, it's not only been on, it's been on the chaver. This morning, Baruch Hashem, I know the Kol Torah, it gives us inspiration to everyone wants to learn even stark, you hear Kol Torah. When it don't come, I'm not in the mood today. Oh, but you're getting toiva. I'm not saying every day you have to come, but you have to realize this concept. Mishalim Ra Tachas Toiva. Hashem Yerah was one of the worst things. Paro was the champion. If you want to go into that, join that league of champions, So you join Paro. He was the champion of this, and he came to be koyfer be'ikah because of this madrega Mishalim Roa Tachas Toiva. Mishalim Roa Tachas Toiva. And Rabbi say, if you don't learn in yeshiva, you have to realize that if you're part of yeshiva, if you're gaining from your yeshiva, you have to be part and parcel of whatever the yeshiva does, because you have to mechazek the yeshiva, you're part of the yeshiva. And the person says, okay, Rabbi, I hear, sounds good, but I'm not sure, because at the end of the day, it's not so good for me. Excuse me, Rabbi. I'm sorry, I paid bad, but I go to Shlita. I always pay bad back when it's good. But the Meister comes out after meeting marriage. He gets married. His wife's making food the whole week. She's sweating. Mom is sweating away in the kitchen. Mom is down the side of a tichel, all the sweat, beads of sweat, because she's by the hot stove cooking you schnitzel and chicken on the bone, chicken a la carte, and she's cooking you potatoes all week. And she says, "Shlomi, what's wrong? You have something to say. What's wrong? Yeah." He said, "Do you think we can go to my parents? Parents! Your parents!" He's chewing on the chicken, and she gets hit with the chicken in her eye. Sorry about that one. I wasn't aiming for your eyeballs. He's chewing on the chicken that she made, and she just says, "You think you go to your parents? I don't enjoy the Shabbos by your parents." Okay, I hope you enjoy your chicken. Maybe choke on it! Mishalim Roa Tachas Toiva. She's working hard. She doesn't not say she wants to go ever. The last time we were here, I don't remember. It was 32 years ago. Just asking for one Shabbos. But I don't like the Shabbos so much. I don't get to daven the way I want to daven, the way I want to learn. I'm not saying it was a shayla. Mishalim Roa Tachas Toiva. The worst of the midas powers. Not a comparison, it's different on Madrega. We want to speak about the Shmuez and Koros HaTov. Everybody talks in the Koros HaTov. There's a Madrega much with Koros HaTov is showing things. It could be a guy you don't show a Koros HaTov. That could also every time you don't pay it's a Shalom law, but you didn't say thank you. Okay, you didn't show your Koros HaTov, but you hurt the guy. You hurt the guy, Rabbi said. And it's going to go into marriage, the same thing, Rabbi said. It's going to be the same thing. The wife's not going to feel that because she does everything. She's schlepping and serving. And no, it's for me, though, it stares me. But I need it. Who are you? It's good chicken today. He's chewing on it's unbelievable. He's chewing on the chicken, and he's mishalim at the same while he's biting into the chicken. The schnitzel. He's b'shalom roa tachas Torah. It's unbelievable sound. This is a madrega that we have to realize about that. Once we have toivas, we're getting toivas. Not to show on ground. Moshe Rabbeinu is not allowed to hit the ground. You know why? It smacks of b'shalom roa tachas Torah. I got a toiva. How can I bring beer to something that I got to? Oh, it's only the earth, but that really is so tainted. So terrible, so the antithesis of the whole Yiddish guy rules about a Koros HaTov. This is the Madrega HaTachtoina. The antithesis of the whole Yisroel of a Koros HaTov, what a Yid is. Yehudi is Hoidah. To give Hoidah. I mean, you Mishalim Roa Tachas Toiva, we do it a lot, but it's all because of one thing. We're thinking about somebody important, that's the problem. One person is important, no one else. And if I get it, it's good for me, the chicken is good, the chicken is good, but it's good for my wife, it's not the best for me, it's Mama Mishra say what happens. He learns in Yeshiva, because in Yeshiva, what was good for him, he did. And I'm not saying, listen, sometimes Bittul Torah, you have to know everything, but there are things that a person should be involved, and it could be, but he takes the good, and when he feels that it's not, that he doesn't want to participate because he has a better place to go Thursday night. He has another place to go. He's going to the Yugovasser Rebbe, with the Negovasser Rebbe. He's going to 2 Rebbes tonight. and he's going to get bracha, sit by a kunz and sing with the yeshiva. What do I need? I'm going to the Yugavasa Rebbe. I'm going to do Negelvasa with the Negelvasa Rebbe. Mamish, he sees it. You don't understand. When I go there, I feel Mamish Negelvasit. I feel in the heavens, up in the air, Rebbe. When the kunz is, what do I feel? With the Negelvasa Rebbe, it's just Negelvasa. He sees unbelievable. He knows I washed my hands Negelvasa this morning. Mamish says, Ruach HaKodesh. That's what I do Thursday night. I get into the Negelvasa. But to stay by the Kodesh, I don't get. You get Torah for the yeshiva, and by you being there, mechazik, that's where you should be, Rabbi. Just like you have to be by your in-laws, because your wife wants to go there, even though it's the third week in a row, because she needs to go, because she just had a later or whatever she had. That's where you need to go. But it's not so comfortable for me. And this, I don't like the minyan, my Shver davens at. I go there, but I go for Shabbos. I don't go down with my Shver. I walk off to somewhere else. I go down with this minyan, or my Shver has a Shver who's supporting me and giving. But I say, I'll be back, and he waits by the table for me till 12 o'clock when I come back from the beautiful minyan I daven at, because I'm getting really into it, and I make my Shver wait for me, because it's not so bad because he only gives me $10,000 a month. If he gave me a little more, I would be back at 11 o'clock. But now I come back at 12 o'clock. Shver on you, Shver. But he gives you so much Torah. So what? There's two different things, Rabbi. Don't mix the issues. That's money, and this is pleasure. Don't mix the issues. This is my pleasure, that's his money. I'll take both. Hashem Yirachim, Hashem Yirachim. Paroi! That's the epitome of paroi. Yidden are not that way. We don't strike the ground. Mishalim ro tachas toivo. You had enough in the ground, Moshe Rabbeinu. You were saved. Don't strike it. Biggest kiddush Hashem all the chadboy. It's the worst madrega. Stay far away. Shmekt from Mishalim ro tachas toivo. Don't put a snake in the palace. You grew up in that palace. You ran around. You played in that palace. No snakes there. I just want to end with an unbelievable story. I read in Rav Belsky's book. Ms. Tamar recognized to be called the Motzei Shabbos in 2012. I spoke to my father by phone. Rav Belsky suffered in 2012 a ruptured esophagus, which doctors, after he said besides a ruptured esophagus, the CAT scan was performed, as one doctor put it, the situation was 100 times more dangerous than a heart attack. 100 more times dangerous what he had, a ruptured esophagus. Later it was determined that Rav Belsky had also suffered a collapsed lung. As he later recalled, the doctors told me they have never saw a person in the situation who survived. One doctor said he was born into a religious home, and he thought that religion would never play a role in his life. When he looks at me after my recovery, there is a creator, there must be a creator. Rav Belsky was a sakana nacha 100 times worse what he had in his life. Because the fluids that get in, if they get in, the reason why we have all these things, that those fluids are very dangerous. It's unbelievable. Hashem made the body. And those fluids, if it erupts from the esophagus, it gets into the inner cavities. It's death. It was impossible to even go. That Motzei Shabbos, he spoke to my father by phone and begged him to consent to be transferred to a Manhattan hospital, where a thoracic surgeon, reputed him to be the best surgeon in the tri-state area, was willing to take on the case. He was in a different hospital. He was in my Maimonides hospital, and Mrs. Rechlis was his daughter, wanted him to be transferred to the Manhattan hospital, which is they had the biggest surgeon probably in the world in this India, thoracic surgery. I had already spoken to a Askin who was prepared to come to the hospital to arrange the transfer. Initially, my father agreed, but 5 minutes later, my brother called back and put my father on the phone. He was terribly weak and was barely able to talk. By that time, Dr. Brickhoff had already come down to the emergency room and had spoken with Rav Belsky. This was the doctor who was in the Maimonides, who was supposed to do the surgery. When he realized that the family was contemplating transfer, the doctor was not upset. He said that he would step out of the room and wait for the family to make the decision. Rav Belsky was with his father at the time. The Askanim were well-meaning and were pushing for the transfer. However, I felt that this had to be my father's decision. I had to ask Rav Belsky. Rav Belsky decided that he would remain in Maimonides. After his recovery, he would become emotional whenever he explained the reason behind the decision. I was not going to embarrass the doctor who had come to save my life. Listen, Rabbi, say carefully. In the operating room, Rav Belsky went into cardiac arrest. Had he been in an ambulance in the transfer on the way to Nahei, he probably wouldn't have survived. Dr. Brickhoff opened the patient's chest and was horrified what he saw. There was a leakage of fluids from the esophagus into the chest cavity. The doctor turned around to tell his assistants that nothing could be done for this man. And then he noticed a stent that happened to be lying in the operating table. He used the stent to temporarily close the rupture and managed to get the heart beating again. Rav Belsky was alive. Rav Belsky didn't want the Shalom law, Tachas Toiva. I'm not going to embarrass the doctor who came to save my life. And because of that, Rav Belsky lived another 4 years, Rabbi said. We don't understand what it means. Hakara Satoy, but Mishalim Law, somebody who does something good, but every situation is different, but this story touched me very much. How we have to understand and think into other people, what's going on in their lives, what's going on with the family, what's going on with the institution, what's going on what I'm shy to. Not only about me, the whole sort of all these shmoozer, but it's always to think we got to take ourselves out of ourselves. You read this book, it's not a good book to read, it should be on the shelves. You see how Rav Belsky's whole life was about other people, Rabbi say, how he could help other people. There was his house was open, anybody who wanted to come in, and everybody, and anything, Rabbi said. His stock, everything he did for the other colleagues, Rabbi said. We have to realize if we want to become greater, we spoke last one, take ourselves out of ourselves. But this is the Rabbi say something that we have to stay far away. This is the epitome of paro. This is the lowest of the lowest madregas. This is why HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Moshe Rabbeinu, so you have to go to the nth degree to stay far away for Mishalim Ra Tachas Toiva. If we have something done good to us, we have to go out and Nikoros HaToiva. We have to be indebted for who knows how long. We have to be the Shoah Korah, but the Mishalim Ra. There's somebody does something for them, we have to feel indebted to the fact that we can't do something bad to them. We can't, we just can't. And then we somehow touch on what the Bereshit created us for, to be people that are moida, not only to people. Paro, people think Paro was the koifa be'ika. It was mi Hashem. People think, you know what? Paro had problems with theology. He had problems, he wasn't a good philosopher, and he made mistakes, and he had problems, and he became a koifer because he believed in Darwinism. The Chazal tells us fakir. You know why he became a koifer? Because he was koifer to Rosh Hashanah. He was the Meshayim Law Tachas Toiva, the lowest in the madrega of kfira, of kafir b'tafui b'toiv. That's what he did, and because he did that, he became to be a koifer by Kodesh Baruch Hu. Amuna, all that amuna. You know how it starts by recognizing the good Hashem does for us. But if Mishalim Ra Tachas Toiva, Bereshim does us good, and we spit the Chas V'Shalom in the face, we're not going to get anywhere, bro. So we'll come to be koifer. Oh, we believe Hashem. No, it's not there, bro. So you believe by showing actions how you pay back the God, but for sure not to throw the stone into the bowl you drank from. You should be zerich to understand that, Rabbi said. Rav Belsky's life was saved. You should be zerich to live a life of Hakora Sakoiv. Be zerich to give nachas to Bein.